Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. I'm Anderson Cooper. Welcome to Full Circle. It just got off the plane from Helsinki about 2 hours ago. It took me about an hour to get back here to our newsroom. This is the first time we're going to be broadcasting Full Circle. It's only our second night, but the first time we're broadcasting it from our newsroom here in New York. We have a lot to get to. As always, I want to hear from you. That's really what we want this show to be about. So weigh in with your thoughts in the comments. And if you ever want to quiet those comments, if you get sick of them, just swipe to the right. Now tonight, the Trump clarification on his equivocation in Helsinki about Russia's attack on the U.S. election, or should I say, attempt at clarification. And later, take a look at this video. Imagine being on a boat hit by a lava bomb. We're going to find out what that's like. We'll talk to a man who was on that boat. Then, in a segment we call the 180, a conversation between you and me, with a chance for you to ask me questions. Today's topic, flirting with danger. I've reported in some pretty precarious situations over the years and reported on plenty of daredevils. So feel free to ask me anything you want about that in the comments. I'll do my best to get to as many of your questions as I can later in the broadcast. There's one more thing I want you to know about today. It's going to make a little more sense when I get to tell you what a group of raccoons did to a Walmart. But for now, the question for you is, raccoons, furry friend or fiercest foe? I have my opinion on this already. For anyone who hasn't already formed an opinion, today's story may help you make up your mind. If you're watching on your phone or tablet, you should see your choices on the bottom half of the screen. Vote away, then swipe down to clear it. We'll get you the final results before the end of the show. We start, first thing first, one of the top, if not the top trending story on Facebook this second. And that, of course, is the President of the United States is now saying that all of yesterday's fire and brimstone over his remarks, basically repudiating his own intelligence community's assessment of Russian interference in the 2016 election, he's now saying it came down to his own mistake. A mistake over a verb, he claims, an apostrophe. Standing next to Vladimir Putin, here's what the president actually said in Helsinki yesterday.
My people came to me, Dan Coates came to me, and some others. They said they think it's Russia. I have President Putin. He just said it's not Russia. I will say this, I don't see any reason why it would be.
So here's what he said at the White House about that this afternoon.
In a key sentence in my remarks, I said the word would instead of wouldn't. The sentence should have been, I don't see any reason why I wouldn't, or why it wouldn't be Russia.
Well, President Trump was reading from several typed pages when he spoke this afternoon, remarks crafted by top national security officials, according to a person familiar with the matter. By the way, a CNN camera caught this picture showing what presumably was the president's handwritten edition. There was no collusion, misspelling the word collusion. In his statement, he did say he accepted the judgment of the U.S. intelligence community that Russia had, in fact, meddled in the 2016 election, which is not what he said yesterday. He didn't actually say he blamed Russia, however, adding, quote, it could be other people also. So he basically undercut his own statement. Washington Post columnist and CNN Global Affairs analyst Max Boot wasn't buying any of it. On Twitter, he wrote, Trump is deathly afraid of being laughed at. Newsflash, Mr. President, the world is laughing at you. This is the silliest spin ever. And former CIA Director General Michael Hayden tweeted, I'm not laughing, followed by some crying emojis. Oh hell, he then wrote, yes I am, followed by a whole bunch of laughing emojis. Now, with that all straightened out on the Full Circle interview, new restrictions are in place for boaters near Hawaii's Kilauea volcano after a flying chunk of lava hit a sightseeing boat, injuring 23 people. Take a look at more of this video. The so-called lava bomb punctured the roof of the boat Monday morning off the coast of the Big Island. Joining me now is Will Bryan, who was on that boat with his girlfriend. It's his video. Will, can you just describe, in this incredible video, just describe what you saw, what we're looking at?
So initially we were looking at the little lava explosions from the water. I guess they were called fissures. And the boat started to get, I guess, in a better angle so we could see it. And then as we got close, you see that last explosion. It was another fissure that was in between the original fissure we were looking at and us, and it came up so quick it blacked out the sky, and it looked like, I guess, burned charcoal when it's red, just flying right at you.
And could you tell the lava bomb was coming at you, or if it was multiple? Could you actually see them coming toward the boat, or did it hit all of a sudden?
No, you could see it for like a split second. You could see just hundreds of them coming straight at our face. So we all ducked. We didn't see the big piece that punctured the roof, but you could hear it. And in the video, you see like that flash when it comes through the roof and lands.
It's crazy. I mean, I know your girlfriend injured. First of all, how is she doing? And there were a bunch of people on the boat who were injured as well.
Yeah, she's doing really good. She had some ash in her eye from when she ducked from the initial blast, and then her legs are pretty cut up. I have some burns, some real minor burns on my leg, and I've talked to a few of the other passengers, and they all have a little bit of burns. But there's only the one girl that got her femur fractured, and then I think two like significant burns.
I mean, it's just incredible. And on a boat, there's nowhere for you to go, really. I mean, you know, you can duck, but it's all just luck whether you make it through or not and don't get hit.
Yeah, that was actually the most terrifying thing after the initial blast was you could still hear it and feel it coming, and there's literally nowhere to go. Like you're saying, there's no safe spot. No matter where we were climbing or hiding, we were just getting pelted in every area.
Wow. We've got a question from a viewer for you. Mark says, OMG, hard to see, but was the lava a hard rock? Was it cooled already? And he asks, it came from the sky or from the water? I assume, obviously, from the sky.
Well, the initial blast, everything came from that water spot where you see the explosion. But obviously some of it got shot up, especially the pieces that landed on the roof. And it cools off. I mean, I'm not a scientist, but it felt like it cooled off in the air. So the parts that hit me in the back was warm. Like you could feel it warm as soon as it hit, but it didn't burn. Like my back wasn't burned. I probably got hit 50 or 60 times in the back, and it was just a warm rock.
It's incredible. I talked to one guy about a month ago who got hit by a lava bomb. It almost took off his leg, but the heat of it also basically burned the wound shut, so he didn't bleed out because of the, you know, it was still on fire. So you and your girlfriend and so many folks were lucky. It could have been worse, but Will, I'm so glad you're doing okay, and please give your girlfriend our best, and thanks very much for joining me. And I hope you enjoy at least the rest of your vacation.
Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, I hope
Yeah,
you
we
can
got one
enjoy
more
it.
day. We're going to make the best of it.
Yeah, please do. All right, give my best to everyone. Thanks very much. Once again, I want to remind you, I'm going to answer your questions later in the broadcast, a segment we call the 180. Today's topic, flirting with danger. That's coming up. Now, on to the 5 things you want to know. You voted for your top stories on this page, and we spent the day digging into them. Here are your top 5. At number 5 today, raccoons in Walmart. Yes, that's right. According to a CNN affiliate, a Walmart in Covington, Tennessee, was forced to close after 3 raccoons got into the store. 2 of the nocturnal intruders were forced out through a loading dock. A third remained behind. Covington's mayor confirmed that crews were called in to remove the animal, and the Walmart opened a short time later. And now you know why I'm asking, are raccoons a furry friend or fierce foe? I think they're kind of creepy, but they're also kind of cute. You can vote if you're watching on a phone or tablet. The number 4 thing you wanted to know about today, according to a new report from the CDC, death rates from liver cancer increased by 43% for American adults between 2000 and 2016. Now, this happened even as mortality rates for all types of cancers were actually falling. Researchers say liver cancer deaths increased for both men and women, as well as white, black, and Hispanic people. Only Asian and Pacific Islanders saw an actual decrease. The author of the study cautions that the rise is not because liver cancer is deadlier, but rather because more people are developing it. Certain factors put more people at risk, we should let you know, including obesity, smoking, drinking too much alcohol, and hepatitis B and C. The good news here, many of those factors are preventable. Now, the number 3 story you voted for, and there's a lot of outrage about this one, MGM Resorts International, the owner of Mandalay Bay in Las Vegas, has asked federal courts to declare it's not liable for that mass shooting at the hotel last fall. Now, the company, however, is going about it in a pretty controversial way. It's suing more than 1,000 victims of the shooting, but it's not seeking monetary gain. Instead, it's citing a law put in place after the September 11th attacks that it claims would protect them from any legal action by those victims. The October shooting, as you may remember, left 58 people dead, hundreds more injured when a gunman opened fire from the 32nd floor of his hotel room onto that crowd that was gathered for that country music festival. Now, since the attack, thousands have brought or threatened lawsuits against MGM or its subsidiaries, many of them saying they were not adequately protected. MGM argues their private security vendor for the event was approved by the Department of Homeland Security and that protects them. At number 2 today, an update on the families separated at the border. A Health and Human Services official has confirmed that the federal government cannot find the parents of 71 kids who who were likely separated from their families. Now, that same official also told a federal judge that potentially hundreds of parents have already been deported or released already, or maybe in federal or state criminal custody. Ed Lavandera is in San Antonio, Texas, at a Catholic Charities facility that's helping immigrants. Ed, what do you know about these new numbers from the Health and Human Services?
Well, they're rather confusing in many ways, and that number that you're talking about there is staggering. According to government officials, there are 2,551 kids still in custody, and there's 2,480 parents that they've made the match with. That's where you kind of work backwards from there. That's where you get that 71 number of kids whose parents are unaccounted for, essentially. But there's no real explanation as to what has happened and what exactly is being done to figure out where those parents might be. There are also hundreds of parents who have already been released from custody and deported as well. So still a staggering kind of amount of confusion considering what is going on here, especially in light, Anderson, when you look at in 9 days, July 26th, Thursday of next week, is that deadline for all of these children having to be reunited with their families.
Right, and the government already missed the other deadline, which was for the kids who are under 5 years old. You know, the government had claimed previously that it would only take a couple of, keystrokes on a computer for them to figure out where the adults were, where the parents were, and get people reunited. Clearly, it's taking more than just a couple of keystrokes. By the way, we'll talk about a little bit what's going on at the facility where you are now.
And these are the types of organizations that are being leaned on heavily here across the southern border and in communities trying to help these families. This is a Catholic Charities facility. We're a several-hour drive away from the border, but there are a number of detention facilities close by here. And in the last week, there have been 12 families in all that have been brought to this location and reunited. And this is kind of a stopping point, a temporary stop where they've been reunited in these detention facilities. They come here, get clean clothes, cleaned up, and can make arrangements to travel. These are people who have been either given court appearances to appear in court here in the coming weeks, but from here they're kind of traveling on to family members or wherever their destination is in the United States. But it's also kind of a good indicator to kind of see how these, and it's our first opportunity to hear from these people, and once they're released and brought back together.
And so they're free to go then. They have a court appearance. Do some of them have ankle bracelets, or do they have to check in with anyone wherever they end up, or is coming back to court the first time the government will have a sense of where they're at?
Many of the people I've seen in recent weeks, Anderson, have that ankle monitor. Not to say that there could be some who don't, but most of the people that I've seen have had that.
All right, Ed Lavandera, thanks very much. Appreciate that update. The number one thing you want to know about today, former President Barack Obama speaking out. He's in Johannesburg in South Africa, where he gave an address today in honor of the late Nelson Mandela. In his speech, he mounted a pretty passionate defense of democracy.
Strongman politics are ascendant, suddenly, whereby elections and some pretense of democracy are maintained, the form of it, but those in power seek to undermine every institution or norm that gives democracy meaning.
Well, his message comes one day, of course, after President Trump surprised the world with his news conference beside Russian President Vladimir Putin. Former President Obama didn't mention the president by name, but did refer to, quote, the strange and uncertain times that we're in. Obama's speech, the 16th annual Nelson Mandela Lecture, is one of his highest profile post-president appearances and his first return to Africa since he left office in 2017. In his remarks, former President Obama joked that he wasn't invited to give the speech, but was instead ordered to by Nelson Mandela's widow. Mandela would have been 100 years old tomorrow. So those were the 5 stories you wanted to know most about. You can vote again tomorrow on our Facebook page. I'm told there's also a few things you might want to know about me, so it's time for the 180, where I flip the script, take some of your questions for a change. Haven't seen these yet. After hearing about that lava bomb boat, the team here in New York figured you might want to know about some of the riskier reporting that I've done. Here's some of your questions. Joanne C. question: of all the war zones you've been to, which was the most life-changing for you? I mean, certainly I'd say Rwanda during the genocide. Also, obviously, Sarajevo and Somalia and the famine was also life-changing. That was really the first big story. But I was very briefly in Rwanda during the genocide, and it's a country I'd been to before, even as a teenager, and have been to a lot since. But to see a country like Rwanda, and in the space of 100 days, you had 800,000 to 1 million people killed, and it was very intimate killing. It wasn't bombs and bullets even. It was clubs and machetes and knives. It was as if some terrible madness had descended on the country, but there was a lot of politics and a lot of historical reasons behind it. But it was an extraordinary thing to be there and to witness, even briefly. Lauren B. asked, do you ever have nightmares about your swim with great white sharks? She says that was nuts, but awesome. It was kind of nuts, but it was also awesome. I actually ended up doing a bunch of dives with the great whites. I don't have nightmares about it. I later on then, for 60 Minutes, did a dive with Nile crocodiles. And that one I look back on and think, you know what, that was probably maybe a little bit too much. In fact, the two filmmakers I did that with, they've stopped diving with the crocodiles. But the great whites, I mean, it's just incredible to be underwater with them, have them that close to you. It's terrifying. But by the way, right before you dive into the water with the great whites swimming around, this guy Mike Rudson turned to me and said, "Just remember, project confidence." I was like, "How do you project confidence through a wetsuit and a mask?" Andrew B. asks, "How tired are you after doing the show last night? Flying back, now doing it again." I'm a little tired, but it's not that bad. I mean, look, I just had a 9-hour flight or 8-hour flight. I slept probably most of it, so I'm good to go. Heather M. asks, have you ever been injured while you were working on a story? Not really. No, I've been very, very lucky. Gotten sick a couple of times, and obviously get stomach bugs pretty regularly overseas. But no, I've been very blessed. So let's move on to the goods, where we bring you one piece of good news that we found today. It's always good to have something to hold on to. It's really not all bad out there, I promise. Walter Carr's story is a great example of that. He was happy to land a job with a moving company in Alabama. When his car broke down the night before his first day on the job, he decided to walk. The only issue, he needed to walk more than 20 miles on a dark highway. He left at midnight to make it. 4 hours into his trek, some local police officers stopped to check on him. They were so moved by his story, they took him out for breakfast, and later another officer drove him to work. Word got back to the CEO of the moving company, who decided to thank Walter in person.
I'd like to give you this car right here today, like right now. Like, you can drive away with it. And I really think that, it's in much better hands with you than it is with me. And I couldn't think of a better way to part ways with this and put it to better use. Serious.
Well, to top it off, it turns out Walter is a Hurricane Katrina survivor. Once he graduates from community college, he reportedly hopes to join the Marines. We certainly wish him the best. Before we go, to get ready for my broadcast on CNN at 8 p.m., I want you to look at what you ultimately decided about raccoons, those lovable rascals. Look, like 46% of you count them as your foes. Just 54% find them friendly. Really? Well, all right. I don't know. I mean, they creep me out late at night, but I don't know. I think they seem kind of friendly. Anyway, in case you didn't know, I did not know until just now, it is World Emoji Day. I don't know who makes up these things. There's some fun new emojis coming soon. But for today, I want you to take a look at how you use some of the old standbys to react to the show and to today's news. Looks like overall your strongest emoji was the love emoji, which is, that's always nice. That does it for Full Circle. Thanks very much for joining us. Hope you join us again tomorrow, 6:25 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back here voting for the things, continue to vote for the things you want to know. As I said, we'll be back 6:25 Eastern Time every weekday night. Until then, I hope you'll tune into AC360 at 8 p.m. Eastern on CNN. We'll be keeping them honest as we do every night. A lot to talk about tonight with the president. Hope you can check it out. I'll see you soon.